Hello and welcome to another edition of the Tour de Greaves Cycling Show in association with SportsAid and the Rayner Foundation. If you're watching the Olympics, which of course started in earnest today, the cycling is on over the weekend, you'll know that quite a lot of the Team GB squad have been supported by both SportsAid and the Rayner Foundation. If you check both of those out on Twitter, you can find out a little bit more. And don't forget, we're at Tour de Greaves on Twitter as well. Well, today I'm delighted to welcome one of the probably one of the hottest young prospects in the women's peloton. It is former New Zealand road race champion, which seems very strange given that she's only 20 to have won the New Zealand road race. But welcome to the show, Niamh Fisher-Black. How are we?
Hi, yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah.
Well, first of all, thanks for coming on the show and congratulations on what has been a remarkable season so far. I think it's fair to say, looking at your results, I was refreshing my memory on your results, kind of extended from last season, because I think it's fair to say last season you picked up some decent results. How have you felt that 2021 has gone so far for you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 2021's kind of been a really, really just cool year. Like, it's been really, I think I haven't really had any really low points so far. I mean, touch wood. But it's all been, yeah, really good and steadily sort of improving as the races go by, learning more and more from my team, my teammates, and just sort of really gelling into this really strong team, so I'm really feeling good about 2022, and I'm really happy with how it's gone so far.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned your team, SD Worx. There's just so much talent in that team. I guess whatever race you turn up at, you almost know that you're going to be there and thereabouts in the mix. I know it's an extension of the a continuation of the Bowles Dolmans team that was so dominant. What's it like for you as a young rider, riding with the likes of Anna van der Breggen and Ashley Moen-Passio and Chantel van den Broek Black and people like that? You must feel like you're able to learn really quickly quite a lot from those guys.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, I mean, there's endless to learn. I mean, they're all so experienced. I think it's not just those top key riders in the team. It's also those other riders, like, they have been also the strong sort of backing of the team, the domestics for years and years, and they all have so much experience. And yeah, every race I go to, I just feel like I'm learning more and more and more. And yeah, I mean, I sort of went into the year thinking, oh, it's going to be so much pressure riding with these like amazing women, but I think actually it almost sort of takes the pressure off your shoulders because they're there, and you know that you're actually there to learn from them rather than I mean, they can hold up the strong side, and you can, really, well, I mean, I don't have a trouble anymore, but I enjoy riding for them, so it's really nice.
Yeah, and I guess, we mentioned the fact that results for yourself have gone well. I mean, looking down some of the Ardennes Classics, 12th at Amstel Gold, top 20 at Liège-Bastogne-Liège, following on from 12 last year at Flèche Wallonne, plus even, in the stage race as well, Burgos and the Giro, 2 youth classification wins there. You're not just expected to fall into line, are you, with that team? I guess that team is constantly looking to push whichever girl is in a good position to be the best that they can be.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's sort of, we never approach a race with just one leader with our team. It's always, I mean, there's always opportunity. And even me as like sort of, I have a lot less pressure than the other girls, but if I find myself with an opportunity, then for sure, then they'll let me go for it. It's the really nice thing about the team, that it's just, if you're the strongest there and an opportunity arises, then it's there to take. So it's really cool.
Yeah, let's just talk about the Giro because, unfortunately for us, we don't get to see very much of it this year. I mean, they kind of package together an hour, 45 minutes of racing most days. But how you obviously improved on your result from last year. I think you were just outside the top 20 last year, 12th on GC this year. How do you see your progression as a kind of as a stage race rider going, you must be quite happy with following on from the Burgos result where you were in the leader's jersey as well for a stage or so. Have you seen a progression in the kind of longer stage races for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's all sort of, I think it's, yeah, as I say, it's all sort of a learning process, and you can already see, like, in people like Anna and Ashley, that they really, it's really ingrained. They know what they're doing, and that they sort of, yeah, they think a lot more about it, and yeah, a lot more controlled in their approach. And I think it's just sort of learning that. But yeah, I am beginning to sort of feel that I could be good at these long stage races, and I really like them. The sort of back to back day-to-day efforts. And yeah, as I say, between Burgos and Giro, it's just like things like the long hilltop finishes. Like before Burgos, I'd never done anything as long as that. So it's really, I think you learn a lot from yourself in that sort of effort. It's just super hard, and it's a lot in the head, and yeah, it's a long time to be going hard. So having done a few of those now, sort of getting a feel for it. And yeah, that's all part of GC riding. It's just getting a feel for where you need to be strong, and like the days that you need to be good. And I think it's all round. It's not just the climbing. It's on the flats too, and things like the TTT. Like it's all just new experiences for me. So yeah, it's really nice to have it all under my belt now and sort of move from there.
Yeah, I mean, you're no stranger to the kind of European scene. I know you've been here for a couple of years. How difficult was it moving from New Zealand to Europe? I think you were only 19 when you moved to Europe. I mean, a lot of people from Australia and New Zealand have done that. I've always been fascinated with how you kind of, I guess you're leaving down under in what would be summer to kind of come to filthy northern Spain, northern France, Belgium, Dutch races where it just rains constantly. How did you find the transition from down under to Europe?
Yeah, I mean, I when I think back to it, I never really think of it as like so difficult. I mean, I guess it's just everything like I want to be doing anyway. So I'm already so excited about coming here, and it's just the whole sort of aura around racing in Europe and racing in Belgium and those sort of conditions. I mean, that's what we leave New Zealand and Australia for, to come to. So it's not really. I think the Europeans always kind of look to us and think, "Oh, how do you do it?" But I don't know. It's just. I guess we want to do it, so it feels good and it feels right. So yeah.
And looking at those races, I mean, we mentioned your results so far in the Ardennes style races. How do you see yourself developing over the next couple of years? I mean, obviously, there's a couple of departures from the team next year, although they'll be, in the team car, Chantel Black and Anna van der Breggen. How do you see your next year with the team, perhaps? So the tail end of this year and the start of next year, have you got kind of Paris-Roubaix, the first female Paris-Roubaix on your radar, and then looking to spring next year to kind of push on in the classics?
I mean, for me, this year, I definitely won't be at Paris-Roubaix. That's not really a race for me. Just a bit too small a rider for it, I think, and we'll send our bigger girls to there. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the team will have a big change up next year. We won't have those sort of big figures of Chantal and Anna. But yeah, I think it'll also be quite refreshing for the team. We've got, yeah, really a nice team coming together next year. A lot of it will stay the same. Maybe I think a few additions. But yeah, I think it's going to be just as strong. We've got Demi who can I think can really see her stepping up into Anna's shoes, and yeah, I think it'll be a really good year next year. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And looking at kind of where you've come from, what's the scene like in New Zealand? I guess like you say, you come over here to race the races that you see on TV. We don't probably get to see very much of the racing scene in Australia, apart from right at the start of the year in New Zealand. How did you get into racing, and what's the scene like back in New Zealand?
Yeah, I mean, it's on a much lower scale, I think, than it is here in Europe. I mean, I hear sort of the Europeans talking about the racing they did as juniors, and it's a lot different from what I did. A lot small. I think in New Zealand we have a lot smaller numbers, and a lot of racing is based around track racing. That's really big in New Zealand. So yeah, I started on track. But yeah, it's just small numbers, but sort of the same sort of idea of just you go out and as juniors and sort of smash each other, and it's good.
And what was the biggest lesson you learned when you came over? I think your first race was the race in Luxembourg, wasn't it? The LC Jacobs, your first pro race. What was the biggest surprise, perhaps, or what was the biggest lesson you learned from those early races?
Actually, just sort of the style of racing. I guess I mean, you're ultimately in bigger bunches, and suddenly it's a lot more aggressive, and sort of more of a team aspect comes into it. We don't really have the team aspect, I guess, in New Zealand, Australia, just smaller numbers, and it's just a different sort of style of racing. But that's sort of probably the biggest thing that I had to learn, sort of making your way around a big bunch, and the more aggressive style of just taking opportunities in races, and just having to deal with the teams. That's probably what I was doing.
Yeah. And of course, your brother Finn has just this week we found out signed with immediate effect for UAE Team Emirates. Of course, the team of the Tour de France winner, Tadej Pogacar. What kind of sibling rivalry do you two have? I mean, we've seen kind of on yours and his Instagram posts, you seem very close. But what kind of sibling rivalry did you have growing up? And do you kind of challenge each other now on training rides and things?
Yeah. I mean, for sure, growing up, probably our sibling rivalry fueled us into the sport, mainly just because, we were just constantly pushing each other. One of us would get a medal here and the other had to get a medal too, or something. Or, well, that was after we kind of, there was until the point that we did compete a lot against each other, but there was a point where he obviously got a lot better than me. But and I mean, even now we joke about things like, hey, well, I've got this many wins, how many you got? But it's a little bit more jokingly now, and in terms of riding with each other, I think I just sit on his wheel if I was riding with him. I think he's quite strong now, a little bit out of my league.
But I guess kind of, you're both on incredible teams, and, 2022 could be a real kind of, Fisher-Black kind of dominance, I guess, if, you get your chances with SD Worx, and he gets his chance in some of the races with UAE Team Emirates. What kind of exposure do you get back home? I was reading a few things, when you won the national championships in 2020, I think it was. Lots of people tipping you for stardom on the world stage, a lot of kind of New Zealand press tipping you. What kind of exposure does European racing get back home?
I mean, I would say not enough. I mean, it'd be really cool to see us get a little bit more exposure, but as I say, New Zealand's not like, I think cycling is quite a big sport over here, and it's just a growing sport, and it's still sort of a little bit behind in New Zealand. It's growing the same, but obviously other sports sort of stand on a pedestal over cycling, and the Kiwis don't sort of get behind it as much. But certainly I've noticed this year that it's increasing a lot more. The press from New Zealand that are speaking to me and things like that, and depends on the races as well. Like things like La Course, that was huge for the Kiwis. I mean, as soon as it's associated with the Tour de France, it's just everyone's staying up and watching me. I'm getting messages from everyone, so that's quite cool it's always cool to know you have the support from your home country, and I think it's definitely growing over there. But
Yeah. And just finally, if we could give you a kind of, grant you one wish, the cycling genie can grant you one wish, and you could win any race, you could stand atop the podium of any race. What race do you think it'd be?
I think I always sort of lean towards, I always say Strada Bianchi, because I've always had a soft spot for Italy and I love racing on gravel. And I don't know, I think it's just one of those sort of epic races, and it's always the strongest that wins. It's like there's no sort of hiding in that race, and I think it's a really cool race. So yeah, I'd say Strada Bianchi.
Excellent. Well, we will continue to hope that one day you will ride into Siena with your arms in the air at that beautiful auditorium that you ride into in the Campo there in Siena. So, but yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show. Wish you all the very best for the rest of the season, and perhaps catch up with you later in the year to find out, how your season has gone from strength to strength with a bit of luck.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Niamh.
Cheers.